Hello everyone, welcome back to Asturis in City Skylines. We built the main city plaza last time. It had multiple levels, lights, and lots of colors. I also chose the location of the new tram bridge over one of the rivers, the same where we did the suspension bridge a couple of episodes earlier. So today we will expand that high-density center, the skyscraper area, and together with this new bridge, we will continue building the waterfront. So lots of customization, different levels, some landscaping, and natural detailing today. Let's go. And we are going to start with this bridge project right away because this is pretty much my favorite thing in City Skylines, doing these kinds of highly customized engineering structures. So this is why I wanted to go here and do this project. I wanted to do it right after we did that previous bridge, but then I figured that it's probably best to keep these similar projects a bit spaced evenly throughout the series. So I have some of these projects like bridges and all kinds of engineering structures planned even for Altengrad, and I'm really looking forward to that one as well. But in Asturis we obviously have many more opportunities to do all kinds of bridges. Railways, obviously, highways, we haven't done those at all. So, lots of these are going to happen in the future. But this one is going to be for trams and pedestrians only. And it's supposed to work together, obviously, with all the areas around it. So at first, we are just going to do a rough shape of the bridge, the structure, so I can have a better idea what kind of buildings I can choose for the waterfronts, how tall, for example, and overall the details and the areas, how they are going to be, because I really wanted to just build the bridge here, and the waterfront is just, something on the side, not exactly important, right? It's the bridge that counts. So yeah, we are going to do the bridge, and then hopefully it's going to give me some ideas for the waterfront. I mean, I already built it, so, it gave me some ideas for the waterfront. All right, anyway, so I wanted to build something different compared to the previous bridge. So already some kind of a suspension bridge was already off limits because, that's exactly the neighbor on this river. Now, at first, I wanted to build a cable-stayed bridge because it's commonly done for these kinds of spans, and it's similar to the suspension bridge, kind of. It has the cables and all that, but it's different, so more opportunities to do just some variety. But then I learned that I don't really like cable-stayed bridges because, well, I'm not really sure why, but just the aesthetics of those straight cables just supporting the the middle span doesn't really matter if it's the harp or the fan configuration. I really don't exactly like how it looks. So there were not that many choices to choose from, the structure types, either some kind of a cantilever type or an arch. So eventually I went for something like a hybrid design because arch bridges have one huge disadvantage. They have many advantages, first and foremost, they just look nice, The arches are just kind of like a monumental structures, I suppose, but they are not looking that great, in my opinion, if they are the largest structure around. So if it's spanning some kind of a deep valley, yeah, sure, that makes sense. But if it's like an urban bridge and it clearly overshadows the buildings around it, it's not exactly all that great. So, and arch bridges need to be tall. So if you want to span a great distance, then you simply need to build a very tall arch. If you want to have it as a proper, arch bridge, which means that the arch is going to see compression loading. Now, if you're going to do a shorter arch like this one, that is not really an arch. It's like an arched or curved beam, but it is a beam. It's going to see some tension loading as well. So yeah, sure, we are in Asturis in some kind of, future time, future environment. We built the space elevator, so obviously the engineers in Asturis do have access to some kind of really strong materials. And I could have just done the arch and be done with it, but that would not be all that, all that great. And I wanted to do just something a bit more than that. So I decided to just do some kind of a different supporting structure. I was first thinking that I'm going to do an arch, which has a couple of just cables, kind of like a cable-stayed bridge supporting it, because I have seen that's actually done in real life. But yeah, I just realized that I really don't like those cables at all. So I just flipped that arch like this, which is, just creating some very interesting looking shape on its own. Later there's going to be some detailing, obviously some tensions and cables and whatnot through the center, which, cables, yeah, sure. But it's not going to be the standard, like, cable state cable types, so it's going to be fine. And eventually it turned out to be, yeah, like a hybrid between all kinds of different, like, structural principles, and it's looking good. It's looking good. It's not gonna be tallest structure around, like I said. I didn't want to have that. It's actually even shorter than those pylons for the previous bridge that we did, and I just like it. It's kind of nice that it has those, like, massive beams, but at the same time I made sure that they are not that massive, because it's not going to be a bridge for cars or any kind of, like, huge, traffic. It's just going to have trams and pedestrians go on it, even though I am going to make those pedestrian paths kind of wide, so there is going to be some reasonable area on the actual deck of the bridge, but still, it's not going to see, like, some crazy, cargo loads, for example. So wouldn't exactly make sense if it was, like, a huge structure, even though it still is. But then again, it's also supposed to be like a decoration in this area, because it's built right at the mouth of the river, and these kinds of arches, aesthetically, they just create like a little indication that you might think of them as some kind of gates or, like, entrances somewhere, right? And yeah, that's kind of fitting, because this is the mouth of the river, the start of the bay, basically. So it just feels really, really good fit for this place. So, like I said, I just wanted to do, like, a rough outline of this bridge. And by the way, this was like a result of hours of me just experimenting with different designs. I was doing this on the live streams. If you've been there, then you have seen it. And this is actually one of the rare projects where I built something almost complete, and then I just completely destroyed it, completely scrapped it, because at first I was really thinking that I am going to give the cable state design a go, and I was almost done with it, but then I just deleted it and went with this. And this was, like, a very, very good decision. And actually, this was the first project that I did after the patch to procedural objects. And we have now the Distort Tool, and this was absolutely amazing for this bridge in particular, and I'm even going to use it for some buildings in here, which just allows you to just pick corners of the objects, not the individual vertices, and just distort, somehow deform the object. So you could have seen that I took, like, a normal looking arch bridge as like a template for this one, and then I just heavily modified the structure, even the color, textures, and everything. So eventually it turned out to be something completely different, all thanks to the tools that we now have in procedural objects. So that's absolutely amazing. Some people said that might have been easier to do just this in Blender, right? Well, I mean, if I knew how to do things in Blender, which I don't, maybe. But then again, I really wanted to have it highly customized for this particular place, right? Not only we have to have, the span the same as we have the mouth of the river there, which is slightly larger than, for example, that previous bridge, but also the heights that I said, and, the spacing, the distance between the water and the deck of the bridge, of course, and all these little details that just kind of need to fit with the city. So for me, it's just much more convenient to do this with procedural objects in the game. And it's not like we have inferior tools in the game or anything like that. We don't. Like, procedural objects are these days, like, absolutely fine for this, and I dare to say that I got some extensive experience with it already. So if I know how I want to have it look after it's done, then it's actually a very fast process eventually. So that's kind of nice, all the rotations, the deform tools, and all that. So yeah, really, if it's all just a matter of picking the right template, and with enough vertices that you can manipulate, and then it's kind of a piece of cake, actually. So I really don't think that you need to do these things outside of the game. Obviously, doing this outside of the game has that added benefit that you can then just upload it somewhere and share it between, different players. But well, that's kind of the point of doing it in the game, so that it's customized to your city. But anyway, enough ranting about that. Let's now focus on the waterfront and what's going on over there. So we are doing some kind of landscaping as well in this area. So you could have, for example, seen me do that tram track, the waterfront tram track, slightly differently, because it was going just parallel to the quay. Right from those 2 episodes back when I kind of defined it first. But then in here, I just made it go directly below the level of the bridge, because it's just going to provide a more convenient way for transfer with pedestrians. They are just going to use stairs. I already explained in the previous episode that I kind of use stairs. I just like them a lot more because you can actually see people use them. And if you do the invisible paths, right, by the way, yeah, I'm using the deform tool in here, even for lines of buildings. If you do the paths right on stairs, then it's just so much more satisfying to see people use them compared to elevators. So, I'm obviously aware of some accessibility in Asturis and even some previous projects that I did, but it's just more for aesthetics reasons, right, that I'm doing these. Like even in here, for example, I could have easily just plopped an elevator there in that corner, but it's just so much more aesthetically pleasing to just have those stairs and see people use them in city skylines, right? The entire city has a cycling ban, again, just because of the aesthetic reason of people not using these stairs on bicycles, right? So yeah, I know it's not exactly all that realistic, but then again, city skylines is not like a realistic city simulation. So, what more do you want, right, from this game? So yeah, I'm definitely doing a trade-off in here, not gonna lie, or not gonna say that it's not like that. It is. So yeah, it is what it is. Anyway, this entire block, or this entire area, is going to be a continuation of that plaza place from last time. So we already kind of established that the plaza is the most high-density place in the city, so it needs to have some of these areas just go away from it, and then gradually just transform into less dense areas. And since you can see that we definitely need to get more population in the city, I'm also trying to just force some residential areas everywhere I can. It makes sense. I don't want to just do the entire city center as offices, even though, again, it might be realistic, but I really don't want to. So a couple of these blocks here and there, especially on the waterfront, that feels fitting, are going to be just residential only. So those towers right at the waterfront, well, they are not exactly at the waterfront. They are on top of the hill, which has a park in front of it. There's going to be some rocks and all that kind of details. And those towers are just at the top there. I also created a possible different level for the pedestrians. Use some kind of small shop buildings as the base of those towers, basically. And on the top of those shop buildings, we are going to have the same level, basically the continuation of this pedestrian area from that tram stop, from the perpendicular tram stop that goes on the river. Now, this tram line in here, this is obviously the one that I was talking about, the one that goes to the bridge and continues from that plaza area from last time. It goes through this block, and this block is a bit awkward. I mean, all the time, or every time you have these blocks that are originating from roundabouts, maybe, and they don't have the streets exactly 90 degrees or perpendicular to each other, obviously, then it's a bit strange to do different buildings. Obviously, I'm trying to pick buildings, you can see that here, that have different shapes. They're not exactly square, footprints, but eventually you need to just fill the insides of those blocks, right? So that was the reason also I did that procedural object curve with those shop buildings. I was using that deform tool right there, and on the other side of the street, I'm just doing some kind of random selection of all kinds of buildings, even some maybe lightly industrial buildings in the backyards or something. And then I also made it, and I really like that particular technique or style, when you create some kind of a top layer of some inner block, let's say, and there are these holes in that top level, and you can just see some kind of maintenance areas or just some kind of I'm not really sure how to call them, like industrial looking details, right? So I put those pipes in there, for example, and later I'm just going to put like different lights so that even during the night it's going to be absolutely clear that the pedestrian level just goes over. It has just more intense like lighting and more brighter, and then below it there's like just a messy area with some kind of different colors, right? So that's hopefully going to provide some nice contrast. Definitely want to continue with that in different parts of the city as well. It's obviously some kind of a detailing that only applies for like super high density areas, but it's not like we are done with those anyway, so plenty of opportunities for that. Now we return back to this waterfront area because I really wanted to start doing some details already. Not exactly the final details, but some details, because I already defined the rough shapes of the bridge, the quays, and this is the building blocks around them. So this park on the hill or on the slope is kind of cutting away the residential blocks and the residential areas from the waterfront. So I wanted to provide these access paths. Now, also these tram tracks, they are just going on the top of the bridge, or on the top of the hill just below the bridge, where the station is going to be, or the stop, and then they are just going to immediately go down. So it's like a roller coaster, yeah, sure, but it's kind of going to provide some, interesting sights when we're gonna do the first-person rides, hopefully. And overall, it's just creating something interesting. It's not just a straight line all across the waterfront areas, right? So, just more variety, nothing more to it. And more opportunities to obviously do these stairs and all the kinds of details. So, yeah, so this place is kind of cutting away the access, I suppose, and we need to provide a lot of this access. So obviously on both sides or both ends of the station here, I'm building these stairs. They are going to be functional, even though I'm not exactly sure if people are going to be using the waterfront right now, because it's not exactly going anywhere at this point. I think in the next episode we are going to provide some more reasons, and actually in the next episode, I'm not exactly sure, but I think I will do it. We are finally going to put some vehicles on this line. Or did I do it for this one already? I'm not sure. We are going to see that in the cinematics, but right now it's not connected to the rest of the network, so I guess I didn't. Right, so these stairs. So on both sides of the station, one set of stairs. Then on the other side of this, like a hill area, there is also that bridge over those tracks, because it was like a convenient place to do such bridge, and because the tracks are already going slightly lower. And we are also going to build, I'm not really sure if I'm going to do it now. Oh yeah, we are also going to do underground entrances. I'm going to use these very nice looking underground entrances. I think these are the pedestrian paths made by Akruas, the LRT creator for the trams, and they are obviously very nice. I really don't like the vanilla tunnel entrances. They are just so massive. They kind of look like some atomic shelter entrances, but these are kind of nice. Don't really have that massive walls and the textures and colors and everything, and they have that grass detail on the top of the entrance as well. Unfortunately, they kind of act similar to the vanilla entrances, so the top of the tunnel entrance, the portal, it's exactly the same issue that I had with the tram entrances into tunnels. That's why I did that custom track in like episode 3 or something. So you have to make them go lower, like much lower under the terrain, right? But it's like a no big deal, because these paths are, well, they are not decoration. They are going to be functional. I'm not really sure if I'm going to be showing it today, because I'm kind of skipping through most of the path work, because I'm doing that in every episode these days. So you already know what the process is. But it is going to be connected. It is going to be connected directly inside of those residential towers here, okay? So basically each of these towers have like an underground entrance directly to the waterfront. So it's kind of convenient, and people can just easily go to the waterfront like that. Maybe later I'm just going to turn the waterfront maybe into like a park life pack, or park life park. And, that's just going to make people go there and just maybe stay there for a while. I might actually put some of those park people generators benches there or something like that, now that I think of it, and just make sure that people really use all those areas that I prepared for them. All right, so I think that in the previous episode I already talked a bit about the shade around Asturis in general. So yeah, sure, I'm not really doing shade too much, but I already said, even with the stairs, that I'm kind of going to do that still, because I really want to just see people walk around the city. I don't really want to hide that, right? So I'm not really going to create like shelters on the stations or something, because I really want to see all the action going on. So, but still, I want to do some kind of a compromise. So, for example, in this kind of a place, I'm going to build lots of these planters. I'm only leaving spaces between the planters like 8 meters wide or something, exactly for the invisible path, so that, you know, the crowds of people that are going to inevitably appear here are going to have enough space to just walk around them. And I'm going to place a couple of some palm trees in those planters and everything. Yeah, sure, those trees are going to be in planters on tops of buildings, wouldn't have enough space for roots, but I don't know. We are in the future. Maybe we have like genetically modified trees that don't have that deep roots or something like that, you know. So it's going to be absolutely fine. And they are going to be reasonably tall to provide some shade. And, you know, we are in a high density center, I suppose, still. So the shade is just going to be provided by all the structures around. So at any point during the day, there's definitely going to be shade from some of these buildings, because they are all around. Now, this red border in this place, this is actually just extracted face of this commercial building that I placed below it. That was kind of like a placeholder color. And I was thinking that I'm just going to recolor it to something else at first, but then I kept it because the place doesn't really have any different red color. It's supposed to just add, you know, variety to this area. It's actually the same reason, I did not say it before, but it's the same reason why I did the red color on the circle road in that plaza area that we did last time. It's not supposed to be symbolizing like a bus road, but it's just a color. I was thinking that maybe these kinds of red colors on road symbolize like a special regime for the roads or something like that. So in that plaza, I'm thinking that the road is supposed to be so that it's going to allow pedestrians, for example, to cross everywhere they want. So it's like a shared pedestrian and car, you know, zone or something. They would obviously have some kind of big speed limits for cars and, you know, something like that. It's mostly just about the color, really. I wanted to add the color, but this kind of justification could work as well. Right, so that was most of the detailing done for that residential area and all the blocks around it. It was actually a lot of work because I was even doing like little paints in MS Paint. I was just doing like a screenshot and then painting some of the shapes of the city blocks. So this project actually took a really long time. You obviously don't see that in the time-lapse, only showing what was eventually done. But yeah, this was a lot of work. I'm probably going to have to do these projects with a slightly smaller scale next time, because I'm just not going to be able to keep up building the city like this. But anyway, doing some detailing on the bridge finally. So we obviously need to provide the surface. So I did that, and I didn't want to have it straight going over the bridge. So I built this, if you think about it, if you just turn like a suspended bridge 90 degrees kind of on the side, then that's the shape of the border of that pedestrian area. I'm not really sure if it's visible, if I'm explaining it right, but it's just something different there. It's supposed to be like a viewing area as well, because this is the first bridge at the mouth of the river, or the bay, however you want to call it, see it. So people can just go to the bridge and observe the space elevator, for example. I also made sure that people can get off the tram on the top track there on that transfer station that we built today and see the space elevator as well without the trees blocking the view. All right, so I made sure of that. And obviously, if you just want to see the entire bay in its full glory and maybe some like buildings on those surfaces like behind the elevator, then you're just going to go to this bridge and use these platforms. I'm later going to put some benches in there so people can just chill there and just look around the area. So we're doing some of these necessary supports as well for the bridge. So first I did some kind of beams, some kind of columns between the parts of the arched beams, the bigger ones, the white ones, and then I also did some kind of tensions, some kind of holders in that central, like an arched bit where the deck is going to go below that bottom beam. So that's exactly the same structure as I used for that suspension bridge, because it already has a very nice looking connections like that, and especially those like connected parts to the top. So you could have seen me just really make sure that they are going to fit those white beams that I placed there, and I kind of made them very dense in that central area, and that's just providing some different element to the bridge. It's not exactly the same everywhere on it, and there is also going to be some nice lights later. So now, speaking of lights, we are also doing some of these hollow ads, or just some kind of abstract looking, shapes or something, colors basically. And I'm not definitely trying to have it the same as the plaza area from last time, but I am trying to just continue it somewhat, because, we are on the side of it. It should not be just a one-time thing. So just using a couple of them. In that inner block, I also tried placing a couple of like industrial looking ads or company logos or something, because it is supposed to be like an industrial looking place, maybe slightly. This is exactly what I was talking about. I am doing these different lights in this like industrial looking underbelly of that inner block, right? So that's hopefully going to look interesting. Now at first, this was just a crazy experiment. I did not think that this is going to stay, but I liked it so much that I did make it stay. So I took those columns from last time, I recolored them pink or purple, and made them kind of overlap those bigger beams on the bridge. And in procedural objects, there is a very nice feature. You can actually make procedural objects, certain ones, appear only during the night or during the day, or both, obviously, which is standard. So look at that. We now have this bridge lit up like this only during the night. If you're just going to unpause the game during the day, it's immediately going to switch off. So you can see that right here, that it doesn't have the lights during the day. I really like the skyline that we finally have going on in this era. It's obviously going to be much more pronounced after we start adding, especially the areas more towards that flying train path, but already the waterfront is starting to look almost complete. So as you can see, the bridge is actually kind of overshadowed by all of these buildings. By the way, here you can actually see the shadow of the space elevator itself. That's kind of interesting how it really casts this very long shadow over the entire city in certain like angles and certain conditions. So that's like a nice reminder that the elevator is still there, even though I'm not really focusing on it in the series too much, because it's done. It's just in the middle of the bay, but it is going to be more important after we get more population in the city, of course. So look at that. This is exactly the view that I was talking about. I really like that red outline of that top level of the base of these residential buildings. It's just like a nice contrast again. That's a word that I'm going to be using a lot. I'm already using it a lot in the Asturis series, because that's exactly the reason for these. And this natural detailing on the waterfront is really nice. That's something that I wasn't sure of, but I am going to use that some more throughout the series. It's just creating something new, It's not just the standard quay and some kind of a main avenue and then buildings right next to it. It's just like, variety. So we have multiple things going on the waterfronts. Look at those crowds of people using all the invisible pedestrian connections. They are just everywhere, tiny little ants just using all those green surfaces. That's exactly what I was saying, that people are going to form the detail eventually on these surfaces. That's exactly what I was aiming for. And also I put the red lights inside the bridge where we have the more dense connections. You could have seen that in that last shot, and I think, I am going to show you some night shots in the cinematics as well, so you will see that some more. By the way, I can already say that the first person ride on the tram through this bridge is going to be amazing. I'm definitely 100% going to do it at night, because it's looking great. It's looking really great. It kind of looks like you have some kind of like lightsabers just shining on the sides of the bridge. It's looking really good from the perspective of the tram. Unfortunately, some of the buildings don't light up during the night, or they take their sweet time lighting up, which is a bit unfortunate. that it works like that. Also, I put some like dim yellow lights on that tram tracks, as you can see them maybe in there. So like a tiny little detail, although we will have to get rid of that in the next episode because I am going to slightly rework the grade on that track. But, nothing all that serious. Anyway, guys, that is going to be it for episode 8 of Asturis. I hope you liked it. If you did, then you can do the usual to help the video, help the channel. So put a thumbs up below the video, obviously share it, and leave a comment. And subscribe if you are new here. And if you like this a lot, then you can become a channel member, the rejoin button below, or the link in the description. I really appreciate all your support, guys. Thank you to all the members. Thank you to all the viewers as well. All right? So take care, and goodbye.